cathedral, probably, that there is, and attracts, as you say, more visitors than the Eiffel Tower does. It is, a prized piece of the country's heritage. It's not going to be destroyed, but it is going to be extremely badly damaged.
Yes, and it's not clear, of course, how fast it's spreading, but given the architecture that one knows inside that building, presumably spreading pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, the roof is what's on fire. And I think, with luck, it'll be the roof and other wooden parts that are burned, but obviously the bulk of it is of stone, and that stone is going to be blackened and damaged, but it will not, unless it is hit with, catastrophically high temperatures, is not going to collapse. So, the plan obviously has to be to get the roof blades out as soon as possible. But from what I'm looking at the roof, it does seem to be just sort of timbers going up and creating, a roof fire, and a very, very significant one. We're being pushed back again now, even though we're a good 200 or 300 metres away from it on the south side of the river. We're being pushed back because obviously there are important means that are going to be brought here to try and put it out. But as I say, right now there's one solitary fire engine with a ladder up, spraying water from some distance away, and I doubt it's making much difference.
And we see that, as you said, there's been scaffolding up because there were renovations. Does that mean that some of the most precious statues inside might have been removed?
No, I think it would have been. There is ongoing work at Notre Dame. It's a building that is in some difficulties because of the rotting stonework on the outside. We've been up there and reported on this in the past, how the work of pollution and the years has done severe damage to a lot of the famous gargoyles and the flying buttresses and so on. So I imagine the work was renovating that and maintaining the outside stonework. As to what will be damaged, well, right now it's the roof. The statuary, the gargoyles, the famous gargoyles will be affected by this. We'll just have to see at the end of it all what emerges. But right now, all I can say is that the middle part of the building, of the roof, is completely consumed. And the rear now is come up at the end. Press.
It looks incredible, Hugh, just to look at the pictures. Just remind us all of the historic importance of this building.
Well, it is, I'm not sure it's entirely the first Gothic cathedral to be built in France, but it is one of the first Gothic cathedrals built, I would suggest, in the middle of the 12th century. And it is, of course, a monumental model of that style of architecture with its, soaring windows and flying buttresses, creating this, celestial vision as you enter. This very, very high roof, sustained by the flying buttresses on the outside and the rose windows and all the other features of Gothic architecture, which we know from all the other Gothic cathedrals. But this, in many ways, was the original, and being in Paris, of course. Hang on a sec. Okay. I'm being moved away, so I'm moving back with the police now. Yes, one of the original Gothic cathedrals, and a place, of course, went down in history, in literature with Victor Hugo and the Hunchback of Notre Dame and so on. So, a place that is in the heart of Parisians, of course, as well, because it's a bell that has rung out over the ups and downs and the disasters and the successes of Parisian history.
And still no indication at all as to what started it. As far as you can see, is there still only one fire engine on the scene?
Well, I can only see one spraying. I hear a lot there's a helicopter. I hear a lot of sirens arriving, but there's only one ladder up and only one water spray that's being directed at it now. It may well be that they have to let this burn itself out. I just don't know. I can't see this one cannon making that big a difference to what is a real conflagration there. And if you're seeing pictures, you'll see that it is not some minor fire on a bit of the building. It's consuming the whole of the roof now.
And how secure is that area if there's been renovation work going on there? How is it possible that some sort of accident could have started, given the historic importance and the care that must go into looking after a building like this?
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows? I have no idea what kind of work was going on. Typically at building sites, it's blow torches and so on that cause fires. There is another aspect of the story which it may be purely incidental, but there have been attacks, a spate of attacks in recent, or vandalism, attacks against Christian churches in the last few weeks. Just a month or so ago in Saint Julien here in Paris, on the church doors, there was a fire laid there, which just damaged the doors, nothing more. I suspect this has nothing to do with that, because this is on the roof, and as I say, the fact that there are these building works there as well, and the scaffolding does suggest that there is a link. I mean, it's a big piece of scaffolding up there. You can see it rises up above the level of the roof, so there was some serious work going on there, either on the roof or on the stonework around it.
And any visitor to Paris obviously sees this building rising on the skyline. It's such a striking symbol of the city. People are going to be pretty alarmed, I guess, to see this.
Well, I mean, I'm obviously surrounded by hundreds, if not thousands, of tourists and Parisians, mainly tourists, I'd say, who are all obviously filming this. It is quite a scene, not one they expected at all, and it's a heartbreaking scene for anyone who loves Paris. I can see that there's a spire which is catching fire now as well. It's the two towers at the front, famous towers at the front, are so far unscathed, but through the smoke, I'm beginning to see flames licking up the spire in the centre. So that may be under threat as well. But I mean, it's still absolutely all-consuming. The fire on the roof. It's leaping up, the flames licking up in a thick conflagration. 10, 20 meters up above the roof.
Hugh, we can see that picture of the spire on fire there. That is heartbreaking to see that. One would have thought that one needs helicopters here.
Yes, well, maybe. There's another fire engine arriving. I have seen a helicopter circling overhead, but I think that was doing more kind of lookout duty than actually partaking in the process of extinguishing the flames. It may well be that they need to bring in something more airborne, but I don't know if they have that to hand here in Paris.
The destruction here is going to be immense, potentially, isn't it? And everyone being pushed back. We're seeing the Paris mayor lamenting this terrible fire.
We are looking at live pictures of the Notre Dame Cathedral in the heart of Paris. It is on fire, as you can see there. Massive flames, smoke billowing out from the 800-year-old Gothic masterpiece. The president has just tweeted out about it. President Trump says, so horrible to watch the massive fire at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. Perhaps flying water tankers could be used to put it out. Must act quickly. Again, local officials say they believe the fire started as a result of renovations that are being done to the 800-year-old structure. Apparently it was in badly needed renovations were underway. I do want to point out to everyone who's watching this and is devastated by these images that Notre Dame Cathedral has had ups and downs before, and it has come back. The cathedral was begun in 1160 and largely completed a century later. But in the 1790s, right after the French Revolution, Notre Dame suffered desecration. Much of its religious imagery was damaged or destroyed. But after Victor Hugo's novel, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which came out in 1831, popular interest in the building was revived, and a major restoration project started in 1845, continued for 25 years. So much of what we see now was actually restored in, around 1845. Then beginning again in 1963, the facade of the cathedral was cleaned, and centuries of soot that had turned it black was cleaned off and returned it to its original color. So those of you who've visited Paris recently, you can see the beautiful sort of almost white stone when it was black for so many years, if not centuries. So take heart. We should all take heart in knowing that this cathedral has seen destruction before. It has been rebuilt. And we can only hope that the same will happen here. We can only hope that the destruction is minor in the end. It looks very dramatic right now, but it has been rebuilt in the past, and we should all take heart in imagining that it will be restored once again in the near future. But again, right now, this is a devastating moment, devastating pictures. This is an example of almost, perfect Gothic architecture. The innovative use of the rib vault and the flying buttress is incredibly well known in this building, of course, with the enormous and colorful rose windows. Those who've studied architecture, even at the most basic level, Architecture 101 in college, you've studied this building and you've learned about the naturalism and the abundance of sculptural decoration in this cathedral, which set it apart from the earlier Romanesque style. So again, this is one of the most perfect examples of Gothic cathedral, 800 years old, but it has seen destruction and hard times before, and it has come back. And we can only hope that the same will happen here. Again, we're looking at live pictures of Paris, the center of Paris. 12 million visitors a year, 12 to 13 million, come to visit the Notre Dame Cathedral. That's more even than the Eiffel Tower, making it the most visited monument in Paris. So you can only imagine on what looks like a lovely spring day there in Paris, there must have been hundreds of people there on the Ile de Cité, which is where the cathedral stands in Paris's 4th arrondissement. Officials are clearing out the area, of course, trying to get this fire contained. It does look like perhaps it may be dying down a bit, but of course you can still see the flames and the billowing smoke. And you can also see below the famous flying buttresses that were so recently restored. And we're going to take you back now to coverage from the BBC.
Unless you're on a specially organised trip, you wouldn't be there. Tourists don't go up there. But of course, there are possibly workmen who may have been up there as well. But it happened in the evening when work shifts would normally have stood down. So I mean, I hope there's a good chance that this is casualty-free. But of course, who knows?
And just finally, I just want to mention that even Donald Trump, the US president, has tweeted in the last 5 minutes just saying it's so horrible to watch the massive fire. Perhaps flying water tankers can be used to put it out. Must act quickly. He is actually probably speaking for many, wondering why we have not seen that. But I'm sure it is incredibly complicated, as you say, to get near to this structure. And just, Hugh, just to ask you once more very quickly, no indication as yet as to whether this is just an accident or what might have started this?
No, I mean, my feeling is 90% probability it's an accident because there's scaffolding there. There was clearly some work going on, but I don't know. And there is this backstory of attacks on Christian places in France over the last few weeks. Probably nothing to do with this, but you can't totally discount that possibility as well.
OK, Hugh Schofield, we'll let you go for now. Thanks very much indeed, our correspondent there in Paris. We can speak now to Shiv Malik, who is a tourist who is there in Paris. Shiv, where are you and what can you see?
So I'm located in the famous English-speaking language bookshop, Shakespeare and Company, about 150 metres away from Notre Dame, about a minute walk at most. Obviously, all the streets around us have been cleared. The fire started about 25, 30 minutes ago. It's engulfed the roof of the and the fire is sort of moving closer to the famous bell towers at the front of Notre Dame. As I can see it from here, it must be about 10 meters away now from the front. It's really heartbreaking watching this fire creep ever closer to the front of the building. The roof itself has started to fall in. You can see that it's exposed. It looks like, all those sort of bits of the roof are in fact starting to, by plumes of smoke reaching hundreds of feet into the air, and they're starting to land actually on the windowsill in front of me. A big piece seemed to land in front of a fireman not far from the entrance. The firemen are sort of struggling with this operation. It is obviously, a huge national monument, but at the same time, I think they're still trying to figure out how to tackle this blaze. There was indeed one fireman on a cherry picker who'd been sent up, and a solitary fireman, and it was very effective. I think the previous correspondent said they couldn't get closer enough to the actual the roof, and that seemed to be the case from where I was standing. So at the moment, it's just blazing free rein, and it's taken out the central tower. And now smoke is emanating from those famous bell towers at the front, and it's coming in sort of thick and fast. It's a really distressing scene to watch, and anyone who's French or anyone who's been to Paris will no doubt know Notre Dame and will be heartbroken.
Absolutely. I was just there a few weeks ago and we are due back in a couple of days. It is absolutely heartbreaking to watch this. Can you see how many firefighters there are? Is there any sign of any kind of helicopter trying to drop water from the sky?
No, there's about probably a dozen fire engines and assorted fire vehicles, probably about 25 in all. I mean, there are definitely at this point probably 100 firemen in all. They're still in the planning stages of this operation and getting hoses out. So, you know, obviously that's happening. There's nothing in the air. There's no helicopters that I can certainly see. The police have done their work in cordoning off all the surrounding streets. You know, at some point it looked like there might be danger to surrounding buildings, but that probably won't be the case. I mean, what was clear is that when the fire started, it started and emanated from the area where there was scaffolding. That scaffolding being erected for restoration work. And it started smooth, but it's, you know, the central tower has just caved in of Notre Dame and caved in into the cathedral itself. This will, I mean, that will further create, you know, a huge conflagration inside the building itself, no doubt. But that's just happened now in front of my very eyes. And
did you see the start of the fire? Did you hear any kind of explosion? Was there anything at the start that indicated this was happening? No, I didn't hear any explosion at all. I was working at the time and had my back to the window. But I don't, you know, it felt like it was probably accidental, but it's very hard to say, obviously. And it may well have been, and most likely related now to an explosion. And
we've been listening to BBC coverage of the fire that is engulfing the Notre Dame Cathedral in the heart of Paris. As you can see there, the 800-year-old Gothic cathedral is currently on fire. It does not appear to be contained. The BBC had a correspondent there in Paris. And we're going to go now to Mikey Kay. He's a security expert and joins us now by phone from Paris. He is also there on the scene. Mikey, where are you exactly? And can you describe for us what you're seeing?
Hi, Tanya. I'm literally on the right bank, which is effectively the north side of the River Seine. I'm about 100 meters away from the cathedral, and it's just heartbreaking to see these 300-foot flames engulfing this over 600-year-old structure. I'm in between two bridges. One's called Pont au Change, and the other one's called Pont Notre Dame. And I literally, in the last 2 minutes, seen the 300-foot spire, which dates back to 1345, just collapse. And there is now huge 300-foot flames of orange smoke bellowing into the air. The two major towers that are synonymous with Notre Dame in front of the spire. They're now engulfed.
The spire just fully collapsed? Is that what you just witnessed?
Exactly. Yeah, I literally just saw the 300-foot spire collapse under the flame. It had been burning for about 40 minutes, so its structural integrity was never going to last for long. And now you can see...
So I just want to point out quickly to our viewers, because we're looking at a replay, that spire that you're now seeing burning on the screen has since collapsed.
That about 2 minutes ago, so it's 7:52 local time in Paris, and at about 7:47, the spire, the 300-foot spire of Cathedral Notre Dame in Paris collapsed under billowing flame.
This is so heartbreaking, and it is impossible to overstate how beloved this cathedral is, not just to the people of Paris, but to the world. How are people around you reacting?
The city authorities, well drilled, I have to say. You know, I've lived in Paris for 2 years, and I've seen the French police and the gendarmes respond to all matter of emergencies, and this is just, you know, another testament to the authorities here. They got here pretty quickly, and they've locked down effectively the entire area. So I'm on the right bank. I'm on Quai de Vitesse. And police have basically locked off all of the bridges close by. Pont au Change is full of people who are witnessing this heartbreaking and tragic event. But the police basically have locked down the vicinity of Cathedral Notre Dame out to about 50 meters. It looks like they've got a fairly secure perimeter.
And the people around you, how are they reacting? Are they in shock? Are they in tears? Because frankly, you know, this is bringing me to tears practically, and I don't even live in Paris, so I can't imagine how the locals must be reacting. Well,
I mean, as you know, Paris, this time of year, especially as it's half term over here in Europe and the holidays are in full swing, there's a lot of tourists around. It is rush hour, so there'll be a lot of locals around. And literally, as I look to my left and to my right, there are thousands and thousands of people all lined along the Seine, all on the bridges, and a big gasp of disappointment and sadness went up as the 300-foot spire toppled about 6 or 7 minutes ago.
Oh, and the irony of all of this is that officials believe, of course, there will be an investigation, so this is not confirmed, but they believe at this point that this fire may have started as the result of renovations that were underway to restore parts of the structure. Is that correct?
I'm not aware of those of the reconstructions, Tanya. If I'm honest, I was alerted to the fire. Basically, I live about 1.5 miles away. As I looked up into the sky, literally there's been enough smoke generated from this fire that it's actually starting to block and mask what was a beautiful sunset that was taking. That sunset is now being masked by billows of black smoke that are emanating from the fire, all heading in a westerly direction across the island that Notre Dame's on, out towards the west.
So, and Mikey, is there any sign that the fire may be abating at all, or does it appear to be raging just as strong as it was?
No, absolutely not, Tanya, at all. When I got down here, I'm just on the other side of the river, and in front of me there are what looks like government buildings. I don't know if they are, but they're very tall buildings, and out of the top of the buildings you can see what was effectively the top of the spire, all of the spire, which, as I said, stands at about 300 feet. And then you can see the two major structures, square structures, that are synonymous as you look at Notre Dame. For those that have come down and come to Paris and visited Notre Dame, the two square spires, if you like, as you look directly up front of the cathedral, that's what I can see. I can see the tops of those by about 100 feet, and I can see the whole entirety of the spire. And as I came down here, I've been on scene now for about 20 minutes. The flames have just been getting worse and worse, and you can see literally the top of the spire was engulfed completely in flames. There's black smoke now billowing out of the two square spires that are in front, and there is no sign of it abating whatsoever.
So does it seem to you,
if anything, I'd say it's getting worse.
So does it seem to you as if it could easily spread then beyond the cathedral?
I'm sorry, Tanya, say again.
Does it seem to you as if this fire could then spread beyond the cathedral?
Well, the problem that you've got at the moment, Tanya, is that it seems like I used to fly in the military for 20 years, so I'm sort of fairly knowledgeable about the wind effects, and it seems